Welcome to muvia, an inclusive and accessible virtual world for children. This is a research project for the Master Degree of Free Software by Cesar Pachon for the University Autonomous of Bucaramanga, Colombia. This project is intended to be a seed for a large vision that which its end goal is to be like a mix of an LMS with a virtual world for children with disability. The goal of the project is to provide a platform with a common set of functionality to enable people around the world in different research projects, um, private companies and non-profit organizations to create content for both therapeutical and educational projects, and to upload them to a platform that will be free and easy to use and accessible to any kind of disability as far as possible, and inclusive, understanding inclusion as the right to access any digital resource without paying attention to the economic limitations or social limitations of any user. So let's go in. This is a very early test of concept, so this is why the platform looks very plain and boring and it has no graphics and things like that. It's a big failure for a children-oriented project, but that's what the budget and the time allow up to now. Here I am going to log into the system. The system is development under Node.js and AngularJS as technologies from both server and client side. It is using all the recommendations for accessibility and standard for the W3C, like the way area specifications. This is designed to be browsed by either keyboard with support from screen readers, and also um, by users that are able to use the mouse. After you log in into muvia, you have access to my profile section. This zone is very important because here is where a user can select his preferences of accessibility in order to make the platform to behave in a way that better matches his particular needs. By example, we have the option to enable or disable background music, play music effects, and we have this option that is play recorded narrations instead of using a screen reader. This is very important because it is oriented to children who has not reading capabilities, so most of the actions in the game, in the environment, are recorded with human voice, pre-recorded, and in the case of users who don't have a screen reader, they can turn on this option. Turning off this option, uh, if you are a user that uses a screen reader, will basically give you access to the same functionality, that is to spelling out all what happens in the world through your speakers. Uh, we also have this zone that is called the level of detail of the graphic engine. So right now we have three options that are high detail graphics, plain colors, and black and white with high contrast. The idea here is that you can pick up the level of detail which more suits your needs. By example, plain colors will be well suited for children who the graphic details are noise for them and did not allow them to focus on the specific activity, like autism spectrum. Black and white with high contrast is well suited for persons who have some limitations of his visual skills. Um, we also have two modes to browse the world. One is 3D view and the other is 2D view. The difference, despite the fact that the world isn't a 3D technology itself, it is using bidimensional technology in order to run in older devices and mobile phones without hardware acceleration. But anyway, I implemented pseudo 3D engine, so uh, as you are going to see in a moment, you can browse the world uh, with some kind of movement of the camera that adds more interest to the world, but that will be difficult for some users, so it is an option that you can disable, and the world is going to behave like a plain two-dimensional world in a 2D grid. We also have the option to use a point to walk in order to click in a cell in order to make a character to move to the selected cell. We can deselect this option because in fact the use of the 3D view of the graphic view is optional, and use only keyboard and combine it with other ways of feedback like way area live zones. We are going to see how a person whose visual impairment is going to be able to use this software too. We also have a accessible controller that is a very important part of the component of the project that can be used in replacement of the mouse, and it did not need to use the site in order to know in which option in particular you are located. Once you configure your profile, you can try it directly in the virtual world link. You can also save the profile in the server side, so every time you log in, you are going to keep all your preference recorded. One goal of the project at long term, not by this delivery, is that there exists some kind of wizard, a profile accessibility wizard that helps the user to select the settings that better fits his needs. Ideally, it will be able to use even for a child who has no reading skills. And that's another area of research that will be delivered from this project. Right now, I am accessing the virtual world. It is loading.
Bienvenido a muvia. La meta es encontrar 5 frutas escondidas en el mundo. ¿Estás
You
listo?
can hear my own voice in Spanish because I have turned on the recorded narration. At this point, I only have recordings for Spanish, so I am going to turn it off in order to don't disturb the narration of the video in English that I am doing right now. So I'm going back to my profile, turn off narration, and let's go back. Okay, so here we are. As you can see, the area is divided in 3 zones. The first one is the visualization area, where you can see the character and objects like fruits and trees. The second one is this big box here. This is a wide area live zone. It means that everything that appears here as text is spelled out either by the screen reader or, in the case of we see previously, by the pre-recorder system. The third part of this screen is the accessible controller. This is very important. The accessible controller is a menu that lets you to describe, to investigate what is the world, what objects are around you, to walk and to interact with objects in different ways. By example, I am going to walk in the world by using the mouse in the 3D area. As you can see, I am clicking on a cell and the character is moving there. I have feedback in the way area live zone regarding to which zone I am standing on and to which area I am moving. One of the features of the world is that it was designed as a 9 by 9 grid because that particular dimension allow me to split the world in 9 zones, so I can have a center zone, north, south, west, east, and south, north, south, east, and so on, and that is easy to describe that in the help. There is the need to research up to which point this this particular arrangement of the topology of the world is well suited to different kind of disabilities and different kind of users, like childrens who have don't know the concept of west, south, and so on. As you can see, one of the things I mentioned before was the 3D view. This is the 3D view mode. As you can see, it is basically a dimensional image, but you can see that the wall scene is rotating, emulating the operation of a graphic 3D engine. I am going to go back to profile and turn this feature off. And also I am going to change from high detail to black and white just to see what is the look and feel of the project in this mode. So if you can see, the world is completely plain. There is no way to confuse with a camera rotating the stage, and we can see that if we move through the world, all the objects are in high contrast mode. Well, the menu can be accessed by the keyboard, so I'm going to use the tab key and press enter, and in this mode I'm right now in the main menu. Look at the gray area light zone. It is saying that we are in the main menu, so it is not only a way to say what is in the world, but also where I am in the accessible controller. I am using only the arrows to operate the accessible controller, so I don't need more than 4 keys in this moment to control it. Another goal for the project is to design a way for the controller to be used with less keys, even 3 or 2, and to map the keys to different keys of the keyboard so it can matches different accessibility situations where the person have maybe hardware, special hardware that mimics keyboard presses, and so he can use the software on the different conditions. I am pressing the right arrow right now to move to a submenu, and you can see how I can enter by example to describe some objects, people, and word. In describe word, it says the first movement into the options says what the menu is. It says describe word. This action will describe the current word, and pressing the right arrow again is going to execute the action. So this is the execution of the action, and it's basically what it does is saying me that the word is a square made of 9 zones. Each zone is a smaller square with 9 cells. This is basically the behavior of the accessible controller. I can press the left arrow to go out a level. In this case, I am again in the describe menu, and another press of the left arrow moves me to the main menu. I can use the walk menu by example to move southward, and there we are. We have our character moving, and after each moving we see that the system is spelling out through the light area zone where we are. The goal of this project, I am going to turn on the graphics to have some color here. The goal of this project, of this particular exercise here, is to collect 5 fruits. This is not a particular pedagogical or therapeutical action. It is just a test of concept in order to test usability with real users. So please don't think that this is what the final software is going to be about. Just gathering fruits in a word. It's just an exercise to see how the accessible controller, the 3D view, and all the stuff works together. So by example, right now I am moving using the mouse to a place with a fruit and clicking on the cell when the character is with the fruit we select it. Another way to do it if using the accessible menu either by mouse or keyboard, and we can use the describe option by example to assist the user. In this case I want to know if there is some fruit So I press objects and it says there are no objects in the zone, check the neighbor zones. So I'm going to walk, by example, let me see, est. I am yet in zone north, it says, so I move again. And now I am in a new zone. I had entered the zone northeast, so I am going to execute again the describe menu objects. And here is the assistance to the user. It says there is an object in this zone, it's appear, found it and take it. So basically it is a exercise of walk and describe. Let me see what happened here. I am using the menu object describe and it see the peer is at one cells toward the east, so I can use the walk and est, and here we are. So if I use object describe again, it says that I am in the same cell that fruit peer taken now, and the take option is what helps me to access the same functionality that using the mouse. Basically, this is the raw concept of muvia. The idea is that each one of the cells might be a link, an object in this cell might be a link to an activity, either a therapeutic or educational activity, or a social space for gaming or chatting. So that's all. The idea is that it is going to be an open source project, and we hope uh, it can grow and reach real children with real needs, and we can really help them in some way. Thank you.